Hey everyone, I'm back. I recently talked about the Green Arrow, so I figured I should talk about Black Canary sooner or later, and here we are. I'm also looking forward to this because I haven't actually gotten to cover a character that uses a lot of martial arts since way back when I did Batwoman. So let's get into it. Laurel Lance is someone who has a lot of different backstories. In fact, sometimes she is one or two or three different characters. However, there are a few consistencies that cut across the various stories that she appears in. Laurel discovered at a young age that she was a metahuman with the distinct ability to let out a disorienting sonic shriek. When she was a child, she deafened her whole first grade class. Wanting to use her power for good, Laurel decided that she wanted to become a superhero. She trained directly under another hero named Wildcat, who was a powerful martial artist and former world champion boxer. Under Wildcat's tutelage, Laurel delved deep into martial arts, becoming one of the best female fighters on the planet, and using her martial arts along with her shrieking ability to fight crime as the Black Canary. Now let's get into Black Canary's combat ability. According to Injustice 2, Laurel is 5'7 and 130 pounds. This seems to be a relatively reasonable size for a woman around that height. So often with these comic book girls, we get heroes like Batgirl, who is somehow supposed to be 5'11 but 125 pounds. It just wouldn't make sense without having literally no muscle mass. Being 5'7 and 130 pounds, Black Canary is going to have a lot of difficulty facing larger male opponents, especially those who have weapons or know how to fight at least a little bit. I trained Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for a while, and side note, I'm hoping to get back into it very soon. And one thing that I noticed is that grappling with women, even those that are a little bit bigger than me, is kind of like grappling with a child, basically. It's just one thing to keep in mind when you watch movies and shows and video games where there's like this woman who's beating everyone up with martial arts. And, it's not unreasonable for a high level martial artist to be able to hold her own against untrained men. It would just be a very risky situation because any strike could potentially be deadly. Black Canary fights a lot like the other characters in the Bat family do, with big gymnastic movement and interesting kicks. Black Canary does have some aspects of her fighting style that I think are pretty interesting. For one, she seems to employ a karate, taekwondo, and judo style, which is interesting considering that she was trained by a boxing champion. But anyway, it's pretty interesting to see Black Canary chambering her kicks. It kind of reminds me of Rose Namajunas, and to a lesser extent, Michelle Watterson. Chambering kicks has some pros and cons. The half a second while chambering the kick can make it predictable that a kick is coming and lead to a counter or the opponent dodging. But the advantage is that a chambered kick can be delivered to the leg, head, or body without too much telegraphing, which can be pretty useful in creating confusion on where to dodge or block. For example, you can see Rose Namajunas chamber a kick, and her opponent Wei Li Zhang anticipates a leg kick and then gets caught clean in the head, leading to a knockout. Anyway, a kick-heavy fighting style would probably be good for Black Canary because she's going to want to keep her opponents from grabbing her or surprising her with a knockout. Another prominent style that we see Black Canary implement is Judo. I think Judo is probably one of the more effective martial arts for people who are smaller or just less strong, where wrestling often involves strength in driving for a single or double leg takedown. Judo has more of a focus on trips and throws, which is pretty useful against unarmed opponents and especially people who are untrained in Judo. We don't see a lot of Judo at the high level of men's MMA and in the heavier weight classes. My opinion is that it's because, one, obviously there's no gi in MMA, and not having a jacket or anything to grab onto substantially limits the move pool of Judo. But on the other hand, I suspect that the issue with Judo is getting countered by good boxing on the feet and slick Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the ground, which is very common skill sets in MMA. Ronda Rousey is probably the most clear example of the strengths and the limitations of Judo in MMA. You can see that she was able to make a lot of throws work with head and arm grabs, leading to throws, and then quick arm bars. But she had substantial difficulty when she started facing decent counter boxers who could deliver knockout power before Ronda could grab a neck. Other times, we have seen judo throwers execute a throw and then end up in a bad position where the opponent escaped and got a rear naked choke or something. I think there is a place for judo, though, as when it's combined with the solid fundamentals of boxing and striking, it can be a great weapon. I know people were saying for a while if Ronda just trained with someone who was really good at boxing, she would have a way to initiate the clinch more safely and thus get straight to what she was best at, judo throws and arm bars. So anyway, speaking of solid fundamental boxing, Black Canary being primarily trained by a world-class boxer should mean that boxing would be one of her strong suits. Boxing is arguably the most important martial art to learn to at least grasp the basics of, because anyone can throw a punch, and that is where the fight will start 99% of the time. Black Canary is small and thus not likely the biggest threat with her boxing, but that being said, there's definitely an important defensive aspect to boxing, which is being able to take a punch, being able to have solid footwork, and just being able to counter and switch to other stuff as well. That would probably be the most important aspect of her boxing. Now that we've gone over some of the martial arts used by Black Canary, let's get into her actual power, which is her sonic scream. Black Canary can let out a scream that she can usually control at least a little bit. In real life, sonic weapons have seen some use in deterring pirates and in crowd control situations. Obviously, a very loud sound can pop eardrums and damage hearing, along with creating discomfort. But sound at certain frequencies can also do a lot of weird and interesting things, such as infrasound, which at some levels can cause hallucinations. In fact, one of the explanations behind ghost sightings, particularly in old houses, is infrasound, causing hallucinations and feelings of dread. Also, have you ever been to a party where loud music was playing and you could basically feel the bass in your chest? Well, loud enough sound can actually shred your organs. So Black Canary has a pretty useful power depending on her degree of control over it. So how exactly would Black Canary fight in a realistic setting? Well, it really depends on her level of control over her sonic scream. Unlike in the comic media, Black Canary probably can't direct her scream in such a way that people who are to the sides of her or behind her would be unaffected, meaning that if there are friendly people around her, she probably would be limited in being able to use her power. Her other limitation is just how loud her cry is and if she can control it at some level. For example, if she can scream loud enough to literally cause hemorrhaging and death to anyone within 100 feet, that is very limiting to someone who's trying to be a hero. But if she can scream at a level which may simply cause a high level of discomfort, then her ability would be more useful. Assuming that she has some control over her scream, I think Black Canary would probably stick with her martial arts, keeping enemies at back with kicks and footwork, and the occasional judo throw if they get close. If she was fighting someone dangerous, or had been grabbed, or otherwise in a bad position, she could then let out her scream to a level that would disorient or severely incapacitate those around her, depending on what she was trying to do, and then she could go proceed to tie them up or whatever. I think Black Canary would most benefit from wearing a bit more protective gear, like maybe some police riot gear, including a helmet for sure, just to give her a bit better defense when engaging in hand-to-hand combat. Plus, it probably wouldn't hurt to have some pepper spray, maybe a taser, maybe even a baton, to go along with her scream and martial arts. It's just these little things that actually make you a lot more effective than if you're just fighting with your bare hands. Alright, so that's the end of the video. I like Black Canary as a character because she has two completely different ways of fighting that actually combine in a pretty interesting way. Like imagining her just fighting off opponents and she could beat them all with her scream, but she can't because Green Arrow is like 10 feet away, and if she screams, he'll probably go down. So it makes her interesting because she's someone who could potentially even incapacitate someone like Superman, but most of the time she's just going to be fighting at a hand-to-hand combat level and, relatively low capability. Without her scream, I would say that she would be, pretty limited in most cases. I mean, even a normal adult male with a baseball bat could probably give her a pretty good fight. But that scream really puts her on another level and kind of makes her capability more interesting to go through. So anyway, that is going to be the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Please subscribe. I always forget to ask people to subscribe, but it does help. Also, I put like a Deadshot video up. Go watch that because not many people watched it. Not that I care. Okay, I kind of care. Alright, go watch my videos. This is your homework. Alright, now I'm just droning on. Okay, that's the end of the video. Later. Bye-bye.